Hi guys, welcome back to another Tuesday card making video here at Crafty Not Shifty. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a spinner card using almost any stamp set. So I've got the clearly besotted Arctic animals and dies, and I'm going to be using this little polar bear and the matching stamp. So I'm going to stamp the image down the normal way, and then I'm going to use a mirror stamping technique to stamp it down again in kind of the reversed way. I'm just using a background stamp stuck on a block the wrong way round, so I've got a smooth surface, and then I'm going to stamp down onto that and then use that as the stamp. So I do have a video with more information on this mirror stamping technique, and I'll be sure to link that in the description below. So essentially you turn around the stamp that you've just used and press it down, and the ink transfers into a mirror image of the original stamp. So you can do this with any stamp that you have. If your stamp is already symmetrical, then you don't need to stamp the image using the reverse stamping technique. You can just stamp it twice. So for some reason here I decided to colour in the polar bear as a regular bear, so I'm just skipping through the colouring really quickly. I should have actually coloured him in some kind of pale blues or pale greys, but there we go, I coloured him in as a brown bear, so that's how I'm keeping it. And I'm just lining the die up over the top of the regular stamped image, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine to pop that out. Now if you don't have matching dies for the stamps that you're using for this technique, that's okay, you could just fussy cut the image out. So then in order to line that die up with the reversed image, I'm actually lining it up on the back. And you can do that just by holding your cardstock up to the light, and as you can see that will cut out the other bear for you. So I took a stitched rectangle die and cut out a section of foiled paper. I actually foiled this myself using a laminator. And I've used the stitched rectangle die and also the stitched ovals from Simon Says Stamp. And I've just cut out a black frame using two of those ovals together. So I'm inking up a section here using Distress ink, and this is going to go behind the open window section for the spinner card. So I'm using two kind of blue colours of Distress ink, and I'm just blending those together. I'm using a light colour and then a slightly darker colour just to get kind of an ombre effect in the background. And just a small piece of that is going to peek through on the card. Now I'm using a damp baby wipe, and I'm just pressing that onto the Distress ink. Distress ink reacts really well with water, and it's just going to leave some texture on that background. So I'm using my die now to kind of line up where I want the window to be cut out of the front of the card. I'm going to need to cut this window out of both the foiled paper and the card front. Once I've got that all lined up, I'm taking a piece of twine and I'm just going to use that to attach the two bears together so that it can create the spinning element of the card. I'm using some score tape on the back of this. I want a really strong adhesive to make sure that that string doesn't kind of fall out of the centre of the bear. So I'm lining that up and pressing it down to make sure it's stuck really well. And then I'm going to use some Tombow Mono multi glue on the other kind of little bear that we've got there to make sure that it's glued all the way around. You can just use the Tombow glue if you don't have score tape. It will just take a little bit longer to dry to make sure that that string is perfectly secure. So you just want to run your fingers around the edges to make sure it's all lined up, and there you can see you have the kind of cute little spinning element. So even though we didn't naturally have two kind of mirror image stamps, we've still been able to stamp the front and the back to create the spinner. So again, I'm just placing down some score tape on the back of the foil panel, and I'm going to line up the string so the bear sits inside of that window we created using the stitched ovals die. And again, I'm just going to stretch that across the window and press it down. So once I've got that all lined up, you can see that the bear will kind of spin in that open section that we've got there. I'm just going to mark out on my card base where to put the inked up Distress panel that we created earlier. So I mark down kind of where I'm going to have the panel sit, so I can set that blue section on the inside. And then I just wanted to line up the die on the front of the card. and I want to make sure that that sits in the right place to cut that window. So you can see we've got a window through the front of the card and then the blue panel on the inside, and we can just go ahead and stick down the foiled panel with the kind of little bear on the inside to finish up the front section of the card. There we go, so my little brown bear looks a little bit lost. He definitely should have been coloured as a polar bear, but there we go. I'm just going to stick down the black frame that I created earlier with these stitched ovals and then spin the bear up a couple of times, and you'd post the card as it is, and when the recipient opens it up, the bear will spin around. So to finish off the front of this card, I wanted to add the sending warm hugs sentiment. So I'm just inking up with some Versamark ink and stamping onto a scrap of the black cardstock. And then I'm going to emboss this with some gold embossing powder. This one is the Metallic Platinum Superfine Embossing Powder by Wow. I'm just going to tap off the excess and set that with my heat gun. So once all of the kind of plastic has melted in the embossing powder, it gives a really high shine metallic finish. So I'm cutting some banner ends into that sentiment strip and